I rise to honor my landlord and, and condo mate. So Senator, happens to be a state senator also. One of the first things that comes to mind when I think back over the years is, Anthony, you're only half the man you used to be. So if you understand that, you understand, and you've known Anthony for several years. This guy is a bicycling maniac. He rides 2, 3, 4 hours every day. Now, when he first started a few years ago, he told me he hadn't ridden 30 miles in 30 years, and then he started riding 50, 60, 70 miles a day. A physical transformation that was exemplified by his dedication and his perseverance, which he also brings to our body. I learned a number of things about Senator Portantino. One is how proud he is of his family, of Ellen, of Sophia and Bella, even his cat, or a grand cat. But he just revels in their love and their successes. Anthony had me watch a esports NCAA final because his daughter, you may not know this, is an esports varsity athlete at University of California, at Redlands. He's done a number of things here that we all can be proud of that have brought a great deal of benefit to California. But there are 3 areas where I think he is best well known, at least where I think of him. First is children. Whether it's the late start bill to make sure that children get adequate sleep so that they can perform. He tried that bill 3 times. Right now he can tell you every single human who voted for and did not vote for those bills. But he was a success because of his dedication, his perseverance. Whether it's guns, making sure that you have to be 21 to buy a firearm, making sure that you can't bring a firearm to school, making sure that you know how to use a firearm if you own a firearm, whether it's mental health, a personal issue for Senator Portantino, or whether it's housing. All those things he's benefited so many Californians. Armenia. This guy is Mr. Armenia. Ask him any question about Armenia, current status or history, and he knows. Now, there's another thing, among others, that he's famous for, and that's his meatloaf. And I think you're all going to be beneficiaries soon of Senator Portantino's meatloaf. I've got something to say, though, Anthony. I've lived with Anthony now for 6 years and seen his meatloaf. I actually don't like meatloaf, just letting you know. So you could give my meatloaf to someone else. I didn't want to offend you here early on. I didn't want you to adjust my rent based on issues such as that. So Anthony is departing, but not for long. Not for long, because of his passion for children, because of his passion for mental health, because of all those areas in which he's made improvements in California. I know you'll be back here in state governance, so thank you.
Our next speaker is going to be Senator Wilk. They're trying to follow instructions, Senator Wilk.
I know, well, you know me. Hello, Madam President, members. Today, I too rise to recognize our colleague and friend, Senator Anthony Portantino. When I think of Anthony, I think of courage, collaboration, and kindness. And courage, every time Anthony walks on this Senate floor, he shows courage because most men are afraid of color. Anthony is not afraid of color. And whatever he wears, he's always rocking with a pair of Skechers, which shows real courage because that's in violation of the House rules. And I don't know how I'm afraid of the chief clerk. He obviously is not afraid of the chief clerk, so good for him. And then, political courage as well. You know, he's willing to stand up to the status quo to help others. And as Senator Umberg, said, when I think of him, I do think of children. The late school start time. Everybody didn't want it. Even I didn't want it in the beginning. But the fact of the matter is, if you look at the data, we have saved lives because we ended up ultimately supporting the bill. Now, the first time it came up, I voted no, and one of his speakers was a professor from Stanford. And the reason I know he was a professor from Stanford because he told us 8 times he's from Stanford. He's not from Harvard, he's from Stanford. He shouldn't have done that. Anyway, and that's the only time I've ever, well, I've gotten frustrated at the dais, but never mad. And I got mad, and he basically called me stupid, and I threw my business card at him and said, hey, you know, you got a problem, you come and run against me. And then I went later that day to apologize to Anthony, and Anthony took my side. He said, no, he was rude. You had every right to do that, which I so appreciated. And then the next day, I got an apology email from this professor who specializes in sleep, and said the reason why he conducted himself so poorly is he did not have enough sleep the night before. You cannot make these things up. I am writing a book. I'll give you all a complimentary copy when I'm done. And then obviously, dyslexia screening for K2. We all know that if you are not literate by the 3rd grade, that is one of the data points that demographers use to project future prison populations. 38 states have been screening. We haven't been screening. And so that comes in the line, I believe, next year, and that's going to make a big difference to so many people and so many families. And again, I can't think of anybody during my time here who's done more for education than Anthony Portantino. And then we have physical courage. As you know, because he'll tell you, he represents more Armenians than anybody outside of Armenia. And he has been a phenomenal advocate for them, and he's taken so many trips to Armenia and to the Republic of Artsakh. He's been on the front lines down in Artsakh, where you can easily get killed at any point. And he's been there advocating, and I know I was there a few years ago, and I wanted to go to the front lines, and no one else in my delegation wanted to go, and didn't go. And then collaboration. I think everybody knows my wife's Armenian, and I like to say I'm ABC, Armenian by choice. But as Armenian as I am, no one is more Armenian than Anthony. We've worked together on the board of the Armenian Legislative Caucus Foundation, where we've raised money to make the next generation aware of genocide and the perils of that, as well as giving out scholarships. He created and then chairs the Select Committee on California, Armenia, and Artsakh Mutual Trade, Art, and Culture, where we promote trade and cultural exchanges with Armenia and California. And then he secured $1.8 million in funding for the Armenian Museum in Glendale, which I haven't visited yet, but we need to do that and then go to Rothy's. And so I don't know of any other legislator who's done more for the Armenians, California Armenians, than you, Anthony, and I really appreciate that, as does my family. And then kindness. He's so kind. Just today, he gives me a piece of meatloaf sandwich, and you're thinking, well, I got one too, so what? But then I hadn't had breakfast, so I ate it, and then I ran into him later, and he's like, have you had it? I go, I did have it. He goes, did you have it hot? I said, no, I had it cold, and it was excellent. He goes, well, you got to have one hot here. So I got two. So I got one sitting in my refrigerator, so if you want to share that later, you can. But just a sample of being kind. I had a constituent, he was 20 years old when I met him. Him and his dad came to visit me. When he was 18 and a half, he got T-boned by a drunk driver, and he suffered brain injury. Most states, you can get government services up to the age of 22. In California, it's only 18. I tried for 4 years to get that and couldn't get really very far with it. And he came to me knowing how important this issue is, said, I'm going to take it on. He got it through the legislature, although he didn't get the governor's signature on it, but I really appreciate that. And it gave hope to this family. And I'm hoping at some point somebody takes that baton up and finishes it. And then he's just been very, very kind to my family. We were at I don't know if I get in trouble for this, but I was at an SEIU box at Santa Anita Racetrack. Anthony was there. I was there with my wife and with my mother-in-law, who at that time I think was 93. And we're having a great time, and then Anthony excuses himself, leaves, and then he comes back. I don't even know what they're called, a trumpeter, the guy that blows the horn. So he brings up a trumpeter, and I don't know how he knew this, but the trumpeter knows how to play the Armenian national anthem. So he's in our box playing the Armenian national anthem to my mother-in-law, who loved it, who we get the Armenian newspaper, so she follows Anthony all the time in the Armenian newspapers, and he kiddingly say, I hope you're not serious that you're her favorite senator, but you're definitely her second favorite senator. With that, I gotta have immense amount of respect for you. You have not shared what you're doing next. Looking forward to that. I know every person that I know that lives in your district actually knows you, because I don't think there's anybody who works their district harder than you. And I love your heart, I love your perseverance, and I really wish you the best moving forward. And with that, if you could all stand and give a nice Senate congratulatory clap for Senator Portantino.
Well, it's going to break my heart to raise Umberg's rent next year after his kind words. As I said during our dinner, I love what we get to do. We get to help people, but I hate the pomp and circumstance of this lifestyle. And so this is difficult for me, believe it or not, to talk. I do want to give a big shout out to my staff who's here. Thank you. Let's give our staffs, all of our staffs, a big round of applause. Because we could not do this job without them, both in the district and here. And I have the best district and the best staff. And so thank you for your dedication to our district. And as it's been said, I love my family. I have two fantastic daughters a decade apart, and you do this because you care about the next generation, right? Isn't that why we do this? And I have to give a big shout out to my my wonderful spouse, Ellen, who puts up with me. Y'all get me here. She gets me at home, and she doesn't have to put up with me. I don't have a vote at home, and so she has to put up with me even though I don't have a vote. And so I could not function without the great support that I have at home. Mr. Wilk, you are a good friend, and later I'll be speaking about you, but I just want to say thank you for your kind words and introducing me to your family and sharing a love of Armenia. And Mr. Umberg, it has been a pleasure living with you for the last 6 years. We sit there and we just, I used to say eat meatloaf, but now I found out you don't like my meatloaf. So I saved 2 slices in the fridge so you'd have one. So now I have an extra slice of meatloaf. I'll have to give it to the pro tem emeritus who loves my meatloaf. You know, we can't get anything through the system without, you know, in this house, 21 votes and 41 votes in the other house. So by nature, we have to work with each other. We have to support each other. We have to work collaboratively, and it's been an honor of a lifetime to serve in this chamber. And I remember my first visit to the Capitol when I was a fledgling city council member in 2000, 24 years ago, just being blown away by the majesty of this place, by the import of what we get to do, affecting people's lives in how they conduct themselves and what they conduct themselves and what they learn and how much they get to sleep. And we get to talk about values and legislate and just be a positive influence on people. And one of the mottos that I've always tried to be is be an optimist. And I always say, if you don't believe tomorrow is going to be better than today, you don't get out of bed. And so we have to believe that tomorrow is going to be better than today, and we get to work on that. That's the job we get to do, is we get to make tomorrow better than today. And we do that many times across the aisle, and I'm glad Senator Dolly and Senator Wilk talked about the importance of inter-party collaboration, because it makes us better when we have that conversation, when we come together and we do the right thing for the residents of California. So thank you for letting to my constituents and the folks who sent me here a deep appreciation for this honor of a lifetime to serve in the legislature, and in particular to serve in this House with, you know, for Senator Atkins and I came in together, and we've known each other probably for 40 years. And it's just been an honor to have served with you and to serve in this body, and I appreciate this opportunity to address you and just be part of this wonderful world. So thank you.